Just reviewed the Midwest HIDTA 2025 Marijuana Impact Report. This was issued back in July and is available online. The Midwest HIDTA area includes Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, Nebraska, North and South Dakota. I am interested in the impact marijuana is having in this region, specifically in Missouri. My last assignment with the DEA was in Springfield, Missouri, where I was the resident agent in charge. In 2022, with 53% of the vote, Missouri passed Amendment 3 to legalize recreational marijuana. I was opposed to this and remain opposed to similar measures, not because I was in law enforcement, but because I knew what was going to happen. I can't predict the future or have some type of crystal ball, but I can see what was happening in other states that have legalized marijuana. This isn't some type of social experiment anymore. We have the data. 24 states have legalized marijuana for recreational use, and we know the consequences. If you live in a state that is considering marijuana legalization, I hope this information better informs you when you vote. One of the biggest arguments for legalization is the tax revenue it'll generate. Legalize it and collect the taxes. In 2024, cannabis sales in Missouri topped $1.4 billion. Of that, the state collected about $241 million in tax revenue. Now that sounds like a lot of money, and it is, but it doesn't tell the entire story. Here's what the data shows since legalization in Missouri. First, public health. ER visits linked to marijuana have more than doubled, and hospitalizations have climbed sharply, especially among teenagers. Second, poisonings. Poison control calls are up 267% over the last decade. And with edibles, it's worse. Calls have increased more than 3,300%. Third, safety on our roads. Fatal crashes involving THC-positive drivers are up 87% in just 5 years. And finally, in families and communities. Schools are reporting more discipline cases, workplaces are seeing more THC positives, prenatal cannabis use is rising, and teen treatment admissions are up by almost 1/3. This is what I call the collateral damage or side effects from legalization. It's the side of the story that gets left out when they're hyping all the revenue that marijuana tax revenue will generate. Colorado has tracked these trends for over a decade now. One analysis estimated that for every $1 in marijuana tax revenue, the state was spending $4.50 to $5 on collateral costs. Whether you agree with the exact numbers or not, the lesson is clear. The collateral costs always outweigh the revenue. The promise of easy tax money simply doesn't hold up once the real social and healthcare costs begin to hit, and they always do. Legalization is a public health and safety disaster. Another argument is legalizing marijuana will drive out the cartels. It'll drive out organized crime. It'll drive out the traffickers. All wrong. In fact, it attracts them. The black market thrives on undercutting prices and dodging taxes. The biggest problem is Chinese transnational criminal organizations. They now dominate America's illicit cannabis market, running the majority of black market grows. Take Oklahoma, for instance. State investigators have uncovered over 3,000 illegal farms, more than 80% operated by Chinese groups. Chinese networks use marijuana as a front to launder fentanyl profits, pumping dirty money back into the U.S. economy through straw owners, shell companies, cultural associations, and underground banking systems like WeChat. They are also tied to human trafficking and labor exploitation. Thousands of undocumented Chinese nationals have been smuggled across the southern border and are forced into debt bondage, working 14-hour days in decrepit conditions, sheds, trailers, even greenhouses, often without pay. Armed guards, confiscated IDs, and constant surveillance keep them trapped. On top of that, these operations are destroying the environment. Investigators have found banned Chinese pesticides being burned inside greenhouses, contaminating soil, water, and air, sickening workers, and even law enforcement officers who execute raids. Illegal grows also drain water resources, spark wildfires, and leave behind tons of toxic waste. These organizations hide behind legalization. They use straw owners to obtain real licenses and then run massive black market grows under the state's nose. Regulators can't keep up. The bottom line? Legalization didn't end organized crime. It didn't end the cartels. It invited them in. And finally, the other big argument is that marijuana is safe, and that by legalizing it will make it even safer through government regulation and control. This is also a lie. The issue isn't with marijuana itself, it's with THC, or the evolution of THC. We don't have a marijuana problem, we have a THC problem. THC is a psychoactive compound in cannabis. It's what makes you feel high. THC levels have skyrocketed in potency over the decades. In the 1970s, marijuana typically contained around 2% THC. In the 1980s, it was about 2 to 3%. By the 1990s, it was closer to 4 to 5%. Today, we are seeing 30+% THC levels, and concentrates can exceed 90%. No tobacco company, no alcohol company ever put 90% pure nicotine or ethanol in their consumer products. Yet big marijuana is putting 90+% products on the market, and they're specifically targeting teenagers. This is driving poison control calls, especially with edibles. Young people are especially vulnerable to higher THC levels. The developing brain is sensitive to THC, raising risks for long-term cognitive damage and psychiatric illness. High-potency THC use is linked to psychosis, schizophrenia, hallucinations, anxiety, depression, panic attacks, suicidal thoughts. All of these problems have increased since legalization. If your state is considering legalizing marijuana, understand this. The tax revenue will disappear, but the damage will remain, so choose wisely. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know.